What's going on, everybody? Karate Kid Fanatics back here, episode number 52. Today we have Jeff Fishman from Karate Kid 1. How are you doing? And thank you for joining us today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm doing great. Thank you.
Yeah, so, before we get, into the film and some of your other stuff you've worked on, how did you initially, when did you decide you wanted to get into the film industry?
Never. It was a complete fluke for me. I've been a musician since pretty much since I could talk. Uh, Back in those days in LA, you know, I was in different shows performing as a singer. And I actually did the Merv Griffin show, which a lot of old people might remember. Oh,
Yeah,
the Merv Griffin
yeah,
show was, I mean, he was old then. The Merv Griffin show was similar to like Fallon or somebody.
right, yeah,
It was like Johnny Carson, Merv Griffin, the same kind of thing. Anyway, I got on the show because of a show I was doing in LA, and it was all with a bunch of kids. We were all like 16 and younger,
right,
and they did a spot on us on the news, and that landed me on the show to sing a song. And that was a long time ago. It was early 80s, before Karate Kid. Um, Roughly about a year and a half before Karate, 2 years before Karate Kid, actually. And an agent approached me and said, "You look so young, and you look like you should try acting." Um, I honestly had no interest in acting,
right,
but I did have interest in pursuing my music further, and that looked like a way to do that. So, so when you asked me, when did you decide to pursue it? It was just something I did. I was
right,
being sent out on interviews. I met a ton of people, all the Rat Pack kids I met because back in those days, Tom Lowe and C. Thomas Howell and all those guys were
right,
going on the same interviews I was going on. They
yeah,
weren't stars yet. Um, so that's how that happened. In fact, I actually met Billy Zapka, William Zapka, on a movie interview, I think for Emerald Forest or something that
yeah,
uh, prior to him getting Karate Kid. So I didn't know him well, but I met him before. We were
right, yeah,
all, similar age, and we are all kind of, trying to get jobs
yeah. So how did
in those
you
days.
get involved in the film?
So it's pretty, this part of the story is pretty boring. It's pretty
Yeah,
typical. I
yeah,
just got an interview call,
yeah,
and I said, it's kind of unbelievable when you think about it in the past, because at the time I didn't think about it at all. But the agent called me and said, "You have a meeting with uh with the director of John Avildsen of
yeah,
Karate Kid," and I'm like, everyone knew that John Avildsen was the director of Rocky
yeah,
One, and he's famous for the Steadicam, and that's why one reason why they chose to work with him for this. They were trying to mirror similarities between Rocky One and Karate Kid.
right,
There's so many similarities, and that's not an accident. So it was like, I'm going to meet John Avildsen. Whoa, that's pretty cool.
yeah,
So I went down and I read for him, and they put me on video, just like a regular interview. And they hired me for 2 weeks. That's all it was supposed to be.
yeah,
And so it was me and, if I remember correctly, Frankie Avalon Jr. and Tom Fridley, another game, Tom Daly, Israel Warby, and we were known as Freddie's Gang.
yeah, yeah,
These guys were only supposed to be on the set for a few days, just like me.
right.
Um, but that's not how it went down. Once we got into the film, they kept us on for the entire shooting, and pages were redacted and scenes were cut.
Right. Yeah.
But that's how I got the movie. I just
Yeah.
auditioned.
Going into the cut thing, I remember, talk when I interviewed Israel, he said like y'all had like some stuff like smoking weed and there was a few things that,
Yeah.
just got cut out. But
I can't speak to that particular scene. He might be
yeah,
smoking weed still. I
yeah,
don't know. Maybe smoking right now.
yeah, yeah,
I know Israel. He's cool.
yeah,
Who knows? Maybe,
yeah.
maybe. There were scenes that I had that were cut. We didn't get so far as to actually rehearse those scenes.
Right,
It
right.
was more like I would show up in my trailer and go through the scene, the lines for the day, which were gonna be like minor.
Yeah,
And it turned out they would redact a lot of stuff,
right.
which made sense, really.
So, for the beach scene, with like the soccer yard doing at the beginning, was that more of y'all just come up with that or was that kind of like all script on what y'all were, doing there?
No, that was 100 on the page.
Yeah.
There was very little ad-libbing going on in this movie. I mean, maybe there was things that Ralph did, instinctively as an actor that worked with John and whatnot. But everything that you saw that was filmed was had a page
Right.
associated with it. Yeah.
So, the, famous beach scene that you were in, what was it like, filming that and to be a part of that?
At the time, I wanted to go home. We were there
Yeah.
forever. We were on Golden Hour. It was Leo Carrillo Beach, and the beach was, I think that portion of the beach was owned by Jerry Weintraub, who was the executive producer of the movie. He's passed away, unfortunately. Um, and so it was a private beach, and we were there for like the whole weekend and had to
Yeah.
wait for a night shoot. And I remember it was cold, and we were just like bored. We were all kids. We were fresh out of high
Yeah.
school. We were like,
Oh, yeah.
what are we doing? When they finally did the scene, I got a line,
Yeah.
and my line was, "You really pick fine friends to hang around with Freddie," or whatever it was. And,
You sure pick cool people to be friends with, Freddie.
Where'd you find this guy?
and I thought, wow, this is my time, man. I'm going to finally get some screen time on this movie. But I've been sitting in my trailer for umpteen months.
Yeah.
Um, so I get out there and they got the whole crew and the fog machines and they're trying to make it look ominous and everything. And we get to he's on the ground, got kicked on the ground, and we're all kicking him as we walk by like this
Yeah.
idiot. And I
Yeah.
lean over and I do this huge, you really pick fine friends.
Yeah.
I totally blew the line. Cut, cut,
Yeah.
all the entire crew. Then they want to go home. And who's
Yeah.
this dude that comes out
Yeah.
and he goes, just say the line.
Yeah.
So I just said, you really pick fine. Then they ended up cutting me out altogether on that line and doing it as an off screen
Yeah.
that you hear my voice, but you don't see
Yeah.
me saying it.
Yeah. They
So
make it like they make it out like it's like the other two characters that say it, the way they kind of pan
you
off.
don't really know who says it because of the way they cut it. And truthfully, it wasn't really important who said it. It would have made more sense for one of us to say it if they had established friendships with Freddie,
Yeah.
but they didn't. And they had more stuff for that group in the script, but the original script, but they ended up pulling a lot of those side stories out.
Right.
There wasn't enough time to explore. Not, I think in my opinion, and I could be wrong about this, but I think it looked a little too fake that everybody in Los Angeles at the time was in karate. Everybody in your
Yeah.
school karate?
Yeah.
No. So I think they had these other guys,
Yeah.
us,
Yeah. For sure.
but they didn't really exploit that much.
Yeah. What was funny
Unfortunately.
about y'all was like during the fight, y'all were helping him up, like trying to encourage him. And as soon as y'all were just like, yeah, this guy. Yeah.
Yeah, I know we were dicks.
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
was no direction on that in the script. It was like,
Yeah.
well, they kind of told us, you guys are like disgusted with him,
Yeah.
obviously. And and the truth is maybe as a kid you would have felt like, this guy posed as a karate guy and he got his ass kicked the first day
Right.
out. What a loser.
Yeah.
That was our, that was sort of our direction.
So, what was it like, getting to? I mean, I know Ralph's a pretty private guy, but what was it like to get to work with him in the scenes that you did get to?
Well, to be honest, Ralph was secluded from interacting with the entire cast on purpose. I think he had a John Avildsen. I think he was going for more of a method style kind of vibe, and he didn't want. And this is the truth. He didn't want Ralph to be palling around at lunch with the guys that were going to kick his ass.
Right. Yeah.
So he purposely had his lunches in a separate trailer. He purposely kept to himself so that when he did meet with Billy or, any of the other guys, Cobras, um, that he was truly scared
Right.
instead of, oh, these guys are pals with me off screen, but on screen, we got to pretend to be scared. I mean, he was literally didn't know how those guys were because he didn't interact with them. And that included me too. I interacted with everybody in the cast, just not Ralph.
So you got to interact with Pat Morita a little bit.
Oh yeah, yeah. Pat was great. He actually helped I mean, you got to understand, being on a movie set is like watching paint dry that aren't in front of the camera at the time. There's nothing to do. And you
Yeah.
can't really go anywhere. Pat was so funny. He
Yeah.
kept us in stitches. He would just he had happy days stories.
Oh
He
yeah.
had all kind, and he was so generous with his, willingness to talk about anything related to his past.
Right.
He was a, he was an interesting person.
So what was it like, getting to film the big tournament scene? Because you guys were in, at the end, and
Yeah.
y'all were seen seated in it as well.
Yeah. That tournament scene was at Cal State Northridge. It was before the big earthquake, so the building that they filmed it in isn't there anymore.
Right.
It was in a big auditorium, basketball. They used it from. It was a multi-function
Yeah.
room, and it was chaos because they filmed that particular sequence at an actual event. The
Yeah.
karate,
Yeah.
the
I've heard
karate,
it was a karate
yeah,
tournament.
that
Yeah.
that karate tournament was legit. It was actually going on. Of course, it was in their benefit. They were going to get all this publicity from the movie, but
Yeah.
they altered the way they had to do the tournament because they had to stop the tournament to position cameras and then all focus. So they had an audience already,
Right.
and they stuck us in the audience in different places in spots so the camera could keep flashing to us, cheering them on or booing them or whatever. So when I guess to answer your question, it was chaotic. That was probably the
Yeah.
best way to put it. It was very cool though to
Yeah.
see the camera system in use. They were
Yeah.
using a series of steady cams. One was on a boom, a gigantor boom, and another one was on a body. And that's why the fight scenes were so phenomenal for that age, for that
Right. Yeah.
time period. They were pretty state of the art.
Yeah. So for you, what did you think the film would do? I'm sure you didn't think it'd be near what it is today, but back then, before, how did you think it would turn out?
Thought it was a B movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't mean that rudely. What I mean
Right.
is the budget was what, $6 million or something.
Yeah.
It was a low budget movie, even for those days. I mean, Porky's probably had a bigger budget. It was a
Yeah.
low budget movie. It was shot well. It was a
Yeah.
Columbia Pictures production, so everyone knew that this was going to be released. It was going to be a movie,
Right.
but nobody really thought it would have any legs. We
Right.
didn't know what it would do.
Right.
Here I am 30 years later.
Still
Geez.
talking about it. 40 now, actually. It was just
Oh,
the
shut up.
anniversary.
Don't remind me.
Yeah. How long were you there filming it? That
Me personally, or how long was I
how long?
contracted?
How long were you, I guess, contracted to?
I was contracted for the entire time I was contracted during the time they were doing rehearsals,
Yeah.
even though I wasn't invited to the sessions because I think they made a decision not to have everyone do karate, which was
Right.
a bummer. Um,
Yeah.
but I would say, let's see, I would say a good 8 months of my life total.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. three
It's a
months
long.
in rehearsals and setups and things. And then 6 months off and on yeah, I would say by November, maybe April through November, something like that.
Yeah.
I'm probably off by a month or so, but it was a big chunk of the year.
Have you ever went through and watched like where John Avildsen pre-recorded all y'all's rehearsals? Have you went through and seen any of that?
I've seen some, there's been some footage, tons of footage online about the making
Yeah.
of Karate Kid, and there's like some unofficial videos of it. Maybe that's got some of his personal camera.
You're like deleted. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome
Yeah.
what I've seen.
Just getting to work with like a very legendary director like that and
Well,
having that direction.
it was intimidating because I wanted to have some look. I wasn't really an actor,
Yeah.
and not every one of those guys in my group were quote actors
Right.
either. They were people. If you look at who they were, and I'm not answering your question yet, but I will.
Yeah.
Frankie Avalon Jr. was Frankie Avalon's son. Tom Fridley was John Travolta's nephew. Elizabeth Shue, had somebody in the industry.
Right.
I think
Yeah.
her brother was on Melrose Place at the time, or pretty close, or was going to be. And he was a major actor at the time. Chad McQueen, Steve
His dad.
McQueen's son. So I mean, there were a lot of people that were on that movie to give it some weight, I
Boost.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah, but working with John was was fascinating from a technical standpoint because that's I think why he was hired. He was very familiar with how to shoot fight scenes.
Right.
And that was really, I think, what I mean to ask him truly to ask me truly what it was like to work with John, you have to ask Ralph. Because I
Right.
mean, maybe you can't ask Pat, but maybe William, the guys that really spent some time with him. I really just got to watch him from a sideline,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
I read somewhere, I don't know if it's true, that like a bunch of you and some of your like group went back to like Frankie Avalon's like place and played music like after set a lot. I
Oh
thought that was
yeah.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, we did that a lot.
Yeah.
That was cool. That was a lot of fun. We were freaking bored, man. We were there for
Yeah.
8 hours on a set. Were we getting paid? Yes, but we were like 18. We didn't care
Yeah.
about that. We just wanted to do something, like everyone does. And we were up in Leo Carrillo. So Leo Carrillo, on the way back, you had to pass through a place called Hidden Hills.
Yeah.
And Hidden Hills is sort of this little secluded neighborhood, big secluded neighborhood, where Frankie Avalon and various other celebrities had lived. And we would just go up to Frankie Avalon's house, and
Yeah.
everyone would grab an instrument. Frankie Jr. is a drummer, legitimately. I was a keyboard player, you
Yeah.
know, um, and I think William picked up guitar. We just
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
high. We would just get
Yeah.
high and play drum and play music. It
Yeah.
probably sounded like ass.
Yeah.
Who knows? Most of us were just happy to not be sitting behind a trailer.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's a
I
true
could.
story. That's an absolutely true story. And unfortunately, if we had cell phones, I'd have so much cool footage. But cell
Videos.
phones were not the thing then. You
Yeah.
know, there were no cell phones.
Yeah. Do you keep in touch? Do you talk to anyone from the film at all, or has it just been, a
The
while?
last time I spoke to Israel and Frankie was over the pandemic in 2020, I think.
Yeah.
And we talked about maybe getting together after the pandemic's over, but that was well, it's over. So I don't
Yeah.
know. I could call him. To
Yeah.
be honest, we went our separate ways after that movie, like most movies. You'd
Right.
be
Yeah.
surprised. I mean, there's always the occasion where people become friends, but that movie uh, came out, and when it came out, you have to remember it came out in '85, I think, and it was shot in '84. No, it came out in '84 and was shot in '83, something like
Yeah.
that.
It
80,
came out in
yeah,
80, so probably
84,
83.
right? Or yeah, and it was shot in '83. So yeah, there was almost a whole year before the movie was even talked about by any of us. And
Right.
then when it
Right.
came out, we all went our separate ways and did our things. And then it didn't really have the impact until it started, until Pat Morita was nominated for an Oscar.
Right.
And then that's when people started going murmuring around about it. Um, so we weren't really palling around for 30 years,
Right.
So
Yeah. For you personally, what was your favorite scene you filmed, or just your favorite aspect, I guess, of, the whole filming
wow.
process?
Nobody's ever asked me that before. Well, my favorite scene, obviously being somewhat narcissistic, is the one I'm in. I'm
Yeah.
kidding.
Yeah. That
I'm
would be
kidding.
me.
Oh,
Yeah.
but there were so many good features to that movie. I kind of like some of the sequences with Pat, or Pat Morita's character Miyagi, uh, kind of teaching Daniel by example, you know,
Right.
how to paint the fence and things like that. I thought it was clever.
Yeah.
How effective it was in real life, probably not so much, but it made
Yeah.
for a clever story, and I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Um, there was the Halloween party, which I'm in, the Halloween party
Yeah.
scene.
Actually, I seen you. I was rewatching it. I could see you
Yeah,
guys. Yeah.
they put me in a caveman outfit, I think. And
I re-
the chicken smashes an egg on me.
Check out this chicken. He's wild.
yeah.
But here's a little insight for me. That whole scene was shot at a school auditorium. I think it was Hughes Junior High, somewhere in the valley.
That's where
And
I think was like all the school. I think that's where all that was shot
yeah,
at.
Hughes Junior High was primarily all the scenes were shot there. And we were in the auditorium, doing this thing, and on stage was a, I'm gonna say it right. I think the band was called Broken Edge. Wow, I
Okay.
remember that. And they were
Yeah.
singing some song, and I remember Brooks Arthur, who passed away. He was working for Polygram. I just wanted to get him a demo.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all I could think about.
Yeah.
You
Had
know,
you? Yeah.
I mean, I'm walking around in this caveman outfit, going, I gotta corner this guy and give him a demo of my
Hey
stuff.
man.
So that's all I was thinking about. I don't know. I
Did
was a
you
one
get?
track mind.
Yeah. Did you get to see any of like the chasing or any of that, or was that kind of just more shot like
Which chase are you talking about? The
just?
skeleton chase?
Yeah. Yeah.
I was there when they filmed it.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. But the chase happened behind the school off of the I think off of the football field somewhere. And
Right.
it was shot during the same sequence of nights that we did the Halloween party. I called it October party. I meant a Halloween
Yeah.
party. Yeah.
Do you have any funny Chad McQueen stories? I feel like he'd be kind of a character around
Actually,
set.
no, except going. Well, maybe. I mean, here's the thing: Chad McQueen was sort of an ominous character. I mean, he wasn't acting. Okay,
Yeah.
he was your dead meat. That
Yeah.
was
You're dead meat.
and that's how he acted.
Yeah.
In fact, it went around the set. Everyone would that was such a famous thing for all. You're dead meat. You're dead meat. No
Yeah.
mercy. You know,
Yeah.
it was the same thing all the time with him. But he had these he always had these crazy Hollywood parties, and
Yeah.
I never went to one. I never felt really that much of an insider to just crash at one of his
Right.
parties. But he
Yeah.
always talked about these crazy parties he'd have up in Hollywood or something. But I didn't really interact with the Cobra Kai's as much. I did with William. I knew him. He went to El Camino. I went to Taft. We lived in the same neighborhoods.
Right.
He knew the same people I knew. So you know, he wasn't like a total stranger.
Right.
Um, but you know, no one really talked to Ralph on that movie. And I remember Tony O'Dell was a lot of fun. We talked a lot. He was very pleasant to talk to, and but all of my scenes had nothing to do with the Cobra Kai, so we never really were on the set very
Yeah.
often together. So you couldn't develop a relationship.
A little bit.
We were there. You know, we were there for some. I was there for some of the. You know, when he's with the chopsticks trying to catch the fly.
Yeah.
That was shot in a sound stage where they created his apartment. It wasn't in the apartment that's on Corbin or whatever it is. Um, so I was there for some of those shots. I was there for some of those studio shots.
Right.
I think they just, to be honest with you, they had me on the set kind of off and on a lot. And
Yeah.
that was frustrating, to be honest. They would call me
Yeah.
in. I'd have to drive in the morning, sit in my trailer and wait to be called and then go home.
Yeah.
But they were
Yeah.
paying me for it.
I was about to say, at least you're getting paid at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah. It's called, they call it in that, they call it you're on hold,
Yeah.
which means that you can't go actively out and get jobs either.
See, that would be, yeah, I could definitely see where the
Very
frustration.
frustrating because by the time November hit, I wasn't even out of my contract and I was missing, you know, so many potential interviews. And my agent was kind of a dick. I mean, he was like, "Oh, well, you're making money. Yeah, I know you're making money, but what is this going to do for me?" You
Yeah.
know,
So,
yeah. And I know I wasn't the only one that felt that way.
yeah.
I guess
I
that's
mean,
just typical.
yeah. So, have you checked out any of the new series?
Well, obviously I've seen 2 and 3. Oh, you mean the newest?
The brand new Cobra Kai series, yeah.
I haven't seen any of it. I know that I think they finished filming it already, right? I mean,
Yeah,
it's
they filmed it.
complete.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know they're advertising it. The good news is what I care about is they just put out the 40th year anniversary new mastered edition of Karate Kid 1. That I care about,
Yeah,
you
for
know,
sure.
more than the others, you know.
One of the things that really agitated me about the last tournament they did, they put the moment of truth in it, but didn't have Survivor do it. They had like Carrie Underwood come in and sing it, and I'm just like,
Yeah, that was. You mean on Cobra Kai?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I can explain that.
yeah.
So you may not know this. You seem to know a lot, but I doubt you'll know this. The song "Moment of Truth" was not written by Survivor.
Okay,
It was written by Bill Conti, who wrote all the music to Rocky. You
yeah,
can
yeah,
fly now, da 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 da. That's the Bill Conti, and his partner on that song was Peter Beckett. You know him from the band Player, Baby Come
okay,
Back. He wrote Baby Come Back. So that song was written by those two guys for whatever reason. And
yeah,
they felt that they wanted, okay, at the time, they wanted to get as many of the winning elements that Rocky had. And
right,
Rocky
yeah,
3 was out the previous year, which was The Eye of the Tiger. And so it was fresh. And I think it came out 82, sorry. And so in 83, when they were filming it, they wanted something big.
right,
And
yeah,
they Survivor didn't write the song, but they said, "Well, you got to play the song." Well, here was an interesting little thing for Survivor fans. Jimmy Jamison took over for Dave Bickler in 1982 or 83 and singing, and that was his first time singing with Survivor, was to go in and do some studio track that wasn't
oh,
written by the band.
yeah,
So when it came time 40 years later, whatever it was, 35 years later, to do Cobra Kai, Frankie made plenty of money on it,
yeah,
but
oh yeah,
they didn't, for whatever reason. They didn't want to use us. They didn't.
yeah,
Frankie didn't.
yeah,
And I kind of get it in a way. I mean, two of the guys are dead.
right, right,
One of them is no longer playing with them because of serious health issues. Um, so it's kind of a tribute band at this point. I mean, Frankie's still alive, but
right.
they're not. So when it came about, I'm sure Frank was like, no, just use it and license it to me. So I'm sure he made a sweet deal for himself.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, he definitely got a check for sure.
Yeah.
So, Rocky 3, actually, that song "You're the Best" is actually what that was originally wrote for too.
Yeah. I
Rocky
heard
3.
that. Yeah.
It's like crazy. I mean, it makes sense.
You're
How
the
did you
best around.
how did you get involved with Survivor, and when did you, start playing for them?
Yeah. That was just so fluky.
Yeah.
So Survivor happened in 2016, 2017.
Yeah.
And I'm a musician. I've been playing around LA. I played with, various artists and things. And I got an email, literally, I just got an email from from Irving Azoff's office. So I knew it was something. It
Yeah.
had one sentence in it. It said, "Would you be interested in playing keyboards for the band Survivor?" I'm like, what is
Yeah.
this? I'm like, are you who? What? So I responded eventually. I showed my wife. I'm like, this has got to be a joke.
Yeah.
Because who does that, right? I mean,
Yeah.
follow up with some information or call
Right.
me.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, that's so I answered it, and then I got an interview with Frank on the phone, and then they agreed to fly me out to Chicago, and I auditioned, believe it or not, and
Yeah.
got the job. And that's how that. But here's the interesting thing that I didn't know at the time, but I learned. So I did my research, and at that time, and I found out that the moment of truth was used on commercials for the movie.
Yeah.
What they did is they intercut some of the Karate Kid into the video. So the video is like of Jimmy Jamison singing in a bonsai garden or something, and then
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
this is stupid, and then they cut to scenes of the movie,
Yeah.
and because there is no live version of that band doing that, because that band never, it doesn't even appear on one of their albums. The only album it appears on is a greatest hits record.
Okay.
It's not
Yeah.
on an album. It's not on Vital Signs. It's not on Too Hot to Sleep. It's not on any album.
Yeah. The only album I've seen it on is just like the movie,
Right. The
album.
movie I think it might not even be on the greatest hits album, but it's definitely on the movie's greatest hits album
Yeah.
or the movie soundtrack album. And what's odd about that, what's interesting I learned about that, my point was that I'm in their video.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
in scenes that were cut into their video. So
Right.
it was bizarre. Plus, I recorded. I was working with Daryl Dragon from Captain and Tennille
Yeah.
on some original music at a recording studio, a very famous old recording studio called Rumbo Recording Studios at a Canoga Park. And in that time, it was sort of an industry secret. It wasn't like well known among people that were not in the know. And Daryl Dragon was very gracious and let me use his recording studio. It's the same studio they recorded many uh,
Right.
Survivor songs in.
Yeah.
So there was a year there where I may have been walking out the same door that Frankie Sullivan and those guys were walking
Yeah.
into. You know, they were using the same studio.
Yeah.
I didn't know them at the time. So, I mean, there was a lot of weird, in retrospect, a lot of weird connections that have tied me to those two brands so strangely. I think it's serendipitous, I guess.
You guys still tour around too, don't you?
As of now, I think Survivor's done.
Really?
Yeah.
Uh,
I talk to Frank occasionally, but uh, not really sure where his head's at right now.
yeah.
Um, you know, you know, I'll say this about Frankie, you know, it can't be easy losing your singer, you
Right.
know, your original bass player. A lot of people have passed away. There's been a lot of they've had a lot of legal fights among the
Yeah.
members. Yeah, so I don't see him as that eager to continue. He's also
Right.
getting older too, you know,
Right.
and it takes his toll. So
I feel like the pandemic kind of just,
pandemic just shot it right to hell.
yeah,
I'm
just,
not, you know, some people like Starship and a couple of the others. I mean, we toured with Starship, we toured with Loverboy, you know, God, so many of those acts. Lita Ford. And the point is that a lot of those bands really hit the pavement hard when COVID
right.
kind of ended, and or
Yeah.
pandemic, I should say, ended. But Survivor didn't survive.
Yeah. Yeah.
I should get a
Yes.
shirt. I survived Survivor.
I survived Survivor. The new
That's the
Survivor.
shirt I need. That's the shirt I need.
Yeah. Yeah. So what is it like? I was kind of reading, where you've made music for like Pawn Stars and The Bachelor and some like, big time network TV shows. What is it like, being able to work on, stuff like that?
Lonely.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, recording is done at home now,
Yeah.
and it has
Yeah.
been this way for many years. So, you know, you record, and I mean, it's a lot of the material that gets placed on TV or video is out of my control. You
Yeah.
know, there's a lot of steps that are involved in how those songs get selected and who gets to hear them. So, you know, I record and hope for the best, really.
Yeah. For you with, your music, you've done it for a long time. What brings you like the most, a lot of times I ask the actors what brings them the most joy in that profession, but for your profession of music, what brings you the most joy with that?
Playing keyboards live for people.
Yeah.
Easy answer. Yeah. I mean, I perform probably 100 days out of the year, and those are the best times. You know, just
Right.
being on stage and playing music, man. I mean, what better life could that be?
Yeah, for
You know,
sure.
you know. There's moments sometimes when you're working on a song and things are going right, and you know that's kind of uh, euphoric sometimes, but
Right.
nothing's like being on a stage in front of people with the immediacy of their faces, of their reactions. That energy is
Yeah.
it's everything to a performer. It's why for actors it's difficult sometimes to do movies as opposed to TV, because in many times for TV sitcoms, I should say, they have a live audience,
Yeah, on set. Yeah.
and so you get that. But you know, the films must be more challenging, I would think, if you're that kind of a performer. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what was it about I guess we didn't really get into your music as much. What is it about the keyboard that I guess stood out compared to other instruments, for you?
Yeah. Well, my first instrument and continues to be is my vocals. My second instrument was actually guitar. That was really the first, you know, actual instrument I learned how to play. but I didn't really, it was just a writing tool for me. When I discovered that piano spoke to me, there was a piano in my parents' house, and it was not meant for me to touch because my sister was supposed to take piano lessons, and you've
Right.
got the guitar. And so I was like, yeah, well, she's not really taking piano lessons,
Yeah.
nor does she give a crap about it. So I sat down at the piano, started plucking it out. I knew how to read and write music already because of all
Right.
the vocal training I had, and I had a background in music. So I was about 14 or 15 at that time. So I had some training, and I could figure out scales on the piano. And I was like, wow, because I'm more of like a science guy. I kind of like
Yeah,
facts
for
and
sure.
figures and stuff. And the way the keys are laid out, it's mathematical. They're all right there. Every key, every note you can possibly create that's audible is pretty much on a piano.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it just kind of made sense to me. And ever since then, I'm like, I got to learn this instrument.
Yeah.
This is for me. Little did I know I'd be buried behind a whole bunch of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
As a guitar player gets to be, no, 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 no.
Yeah.
Keyboard players are like, who's back there? Is he doing
Yeah.
anything?
Yeah.
You know, and
So,
behind the curtain.
oh yeah. So for you, if living or dead, if you could work with any band or any artist, who would it
Wow.
be? You haven't got
Well,
the opportunity.
well, Paul McCartney is certainly on that list because
Right.
wow, right? What a
I,
career. I mean, and this guy's not slowing down.
yeah.
He's unbelievable. Plus the history, and probably the reason why 99% of musicians do what they do is because of something the Beatles had something to do with. So he'd have to be on that list. Um, that would be a musician. There's just so many. I mean, Elton John, just to watch him work, you
Oh, of
know,
course.
keyboard player, um, Billy Joel, the obvious ones.
Yeah.
Um, I'd probably be so damn intimidated though.
Yeah. Just be like,
Who knows how
yeah.
useful I'd be?
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, it would be an honor to watch people. Stevie Winwood, another guy I would, or even Paul Carrick is a big fan.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Paul Carrick. We have similar skill sets, organ and keys, and I think knowing his history, we kind of have a similar way we approach the instrument. I'm a big fan of Paul Carrick too.
Yeah.
You know who Paul Carrick, right?
I've heard. I'm not gonna say I'm very familiar, but
Well,
I've heard.
he recorded with Squeeze,
Okay. Yeah.
tempted by the fruit of
Yeah.
another.
I've
Yeah,
heard
he
that.
played
Yeah.
organ and sang that. He did the Living Years with Mike and the Mechanics. Very big hit. He had a string of his own hits. He's worked with everybody. He's just a famous guy.
Do you have any interest of possibly pursuing? I know you've worked on some TV shows, but more like composed on some bigger time movies, or just kind of
Well, I
whatever.
mean, as an actor, you mean?
No, no, no. More as like a musician.
I would love to, but
Yeah.
most of my career has been live on stage,
Right.
touring and playing. I'm getting ready to start a new residency here in Las Vegas with this band, the K Tel All Stars, the Totally
Tell.
70s. Excuse me, it's called the Totally 70s Show, and we're in our final talks with contracts. We're going to be on the Las Vegas Strip starting in August. I can't say where yet
Right.
because I'm not bound to, but it's going to happen.
Absolutely.
And that is going to be exciting. We'll be there 4 nights a week, and that's a big. That's my biggest thing right now. That's what I really care about at the
Are you
moment.
social media or anything?
Yeah, yeah. It's the
Make
KTellAllStars.com,
sure
no
that it-
dash, one L, no dash.com, or the totally70show.com.
yeah.
Yeah, check it out. We play all the stuff from 1970 to 1979 that appeared on a KTEL record or were one hit wonders.
Right.
But we do it not like the typical bands that are attributing that era right now. We do it like they did it in the 70s. No
Right.
iPad, no tracks. It's the real deal.
Yeah.
So if you want to see what a band may have sounded like doing these songs,
It's very
that's
authentic.
it's very authentic. Yeah. We take it very seriously, but it's a fun show.
Absolutely. Yeah, as I was reading up on you earlier, it said you worked with Grammy Award winner Francis Buckley. What was it like to be able to, work with
Oh
such
yeah.
a level like that? We spoke on some of your heroes earlier, but
Well, Frances was the engineer for Jagged Little Pill. Uh, what's her name? Can't remember her name. Uh, oh my God, someone will correct me. Anyway, she's famous.
yeah,
Big, huge songs.
I have the
Uh,
comments on that.
from I can't remember her name for some reason. Alanis Morissette. Thank you.
Okay, yeah.
I'm having a moment. Uh, Alanis Morissette. Anyway, he's known for originally for engineering that record. And I think that's what he got his Grammy for. He's a great guy. He's a fun guy. He's worked with tons of great people. We worked on songwriting together.
Yeah,
So that was um my inner that's how I connected with him.
right. Yeah, so as we wrap up, this is a question I kind of like to ask everyone. I know you haven't watched the show, but I guess just from your movie experience, would you say you're more of a Team Cobra Kai or Team Miyagi-Do type of guy?
I got to be Cobra Kai.
Cobra Kai, of course. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, uh, I mean, Cobra Kai is the original,
yeah,
and it's where it all started. So, it's hard to improve on that. I mean, to improve on that. But I think Cobra Kai is probably the first time in history that a successful series was created from an original movie that
right.
and at the same time they did something new with it.
Yeah,
So, by the fourth season, it was no longer Karate Kid or even Associate. It was something else.
whole new
And
universe.
hats off to that. That's kind of interesting that they created something amazing. Um, my connection to Cobra Kai is in the first two seasons. They use flashbacks that I'm in. So,
Right.
I actually kind of squeezed into a couple of the
Yeah.
episodes that I got credit for.
Yeah, so did they have to contact you to
Yeah,
sign off?
Sony. I think it's Sony
Yeah.
that handles that. I don't know if that's the production company, but that's the company that handles the
Yeah, that
payouts.
is
So Sony called me, had to get a release from me and all that. But yeah, it's kind of cool. It's like,
yeah.
I mean, Karate Kid has never stopped. I'm still earning residuals on the
Yeah.
original movie. That's why I said when that 40th year anniversary uh, stream comes out, or if it's going to be on, I don't know if they're going to put it on some kind of media. That's going to
Yeah,
be.
there's physical copies and digital, yeah.
Oh, they are. Yeah. So, there's going to be an uptick in residuals again, and it's just never stopped for 40
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if I was in like 7 or 8 of those movies? I mean,
Yeah.
the amount of money that people are making from hadn't when I was 18, I had no idea that the
Yeah.
residuals on a movie of that stature would pay me when I'm 40 years
Yeah.
older.
Yeah, like several people I've talked to, they're like, I did this 30 years ago and I'm still getting a check. Like, and it's just
I
crazy.
don't know how it can't be 40 years because I'm not that old. Let's see, 40. Oh yeah, maybe I am. Never mind. Moving on.
Time flies by.
Okay, you're
But
gonna cut that.
yeah, we'll cut that out. Yeah.
It
I think you were just younger than everybody back then. I think that's what it was.
feels like yesterday, man.
Yeah.
How old are you? Let me guess. You're
All right.
27, 25.
19.
Okay. I was, thinking you were young, but not that young. You were my
Yeah.
age when I was doing the movie.
Well, it's crazy. Like I was 15 when I started doing this, and that's already been, 4 years. So
Oh, wow. So you started
yeah.
this when you were 15?
Yep. Yep.
Wow, that's amazing, man. Where are you, by the way? What part of the country?
I'm in North Carolina, so I'm East Coast. Yeah.
Oh, I got the accent. I see. I hear it now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. No, that's cool. I like all your posters too. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I have that one, the one with the tournament. Here, check this out. Let's see if I can find it here. There's a couple I have.
Oh yeah. Nice. Got all the.
You can't see what we're looking at is Ralph on the ground.
Do you have a Do you have a digital copy of that picture?
Yeah, I think I do. I think I printed it from a digital copy.
Yeah. because I've actually I've never seen that exact
If
picture
you want it,
before.
I'll send. I can. If I didn't digitize it, I don't have a problem. I have a scanner. I can do that for you.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great. But
Okay,
yeah,
cool. Um, yeah, it was awesome, man.
that's really all I got. I just really appreciate your time. I always appreciate everyone's time. Giving part of their time to just learn more about
Yeah,
and
yeah. I
whatnot.
mean, the fact that I can still talk about this movie is remarkable.
Yeah,
The fact that anyone cares, because I was in other movies, nobody talks about them. You know what I
yeah,
mean? It's this is amazing. It's amazing on levels that nobody really anticipated.
right, yeah,
And now they're making another one. So it's
yeah.
like
That's crazy.
it just keeps it's a gift that keeps giving, I guess. you
Absolutely.
know? Yeah.
Yeah, so where can our listeners find your, on social media or, like I don't know if you have your music on Apple Music or Spotify, if they want to check your stuff out.
I'm on Spotify. It's Jeffrey Bryan,
Okay.
Bryan, Jeffrey Reybryan, Jeffrey, two F's. So you can find me on Spotify, Jeffrey Bryan Music. I have my website, which is also jeffreybryanmusic.com. Um, and you search Google, I'm all over. And
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, or the K Tel All Stars,
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
which is this. So
Yeah. Yeah, I just thank you again for coming on and giving your time, and it was just great to be able to speak with you today.
my pleasure. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.